Whoa, 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 whoa.
Wait, what's the problem?
This isn't a, this is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Boris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Home run. Mike Piazza and the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. God, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
Hit the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah. Big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running jumper off the front rim, and in.
I guess you should talk a little hockey, no?
People even watch hockey anymore?
They watch the Rangers.
Well, if you have the Rangers, you gotta have some violence.
Yeah, no, they didn't have a YouTube in the 80s.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, polar opposites. Hello and welcome to the Polar Opposites, a sports podcast extravaganza. I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always,
is Craig Moffat.
And Craig, do you like that new name, the sports podcast extravaganza? I thought it was extravaganza.
You look like you belong on Inside the Actor Studio with that black drop right there.
That's what I do. It's floating. I feel like Jambi. Do you remember Jambi from Pee Wee's Playhouse?
Fun fact.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic had hit and I was doing my show, Moffat on the Mic, there was like one of our first shows we did at night. It was like around like 7:30 at night, and it was still really sunny outside, but the sun was setting for the night because it was the summertime. And I forgot to turn the light on in the room that I'm currently in. So as the night progressed and Clem and I, my former producer, were doing topics left and right, it literally looked like Clem was talking to a head and nothing else because I was wearing a black T-shirt.
Yeah.
In the screen.
Oh, it's
and like Clem's like, it's getting really creepy. Can you just turn the light on or something? Because like it's literally like I'm talking to a guy, just a head and like nothing more. So
you can follow us on Twitter at Polar Oppo, on Instagram and Threads, Polar Oppo Pod. You can also check out past shows on YouTube if you want to watch those shows. If you want to check us out audio only, you can get us wherever you get your podcast: iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, everywhere. It doesn't matter. Just look. Polar Opposites. Check it out.
So today is basically going to be a stripped down version of the show. We're not going to do In Case You Missed It today. There wasn't really a lot going on in sports to really do a full In Case You Missed It segment. We don't have any off the grid today because people weren't doing stupid shit all week.
Well, they might have. It just hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, but you know how we are. It's like it's got to be like something with a hiker and like a sheep or something like that to make the show because that's how we roll. Whoa. You could watch any of the other stuff, all the the Gilgo Beach guy. You could watch that on on regular news, but we give you the good shit on Polar Opposites, and unfortunately, we couldn't find anything that warranted making off the grid for this week. And we don't really have anything in general. We were kind of just putting it together at the last minute. So today is basically going to be 10 topics, New York sports, national sports, just mixed in. And we're just going to fire it off. Figure it as like a full In Case You Missed It show, but without the pomp and circumstance of In Case You Missed It with the wrestling stuff. So we got to talk about the Yankees. Got to talk about the Mets. We're going to get into some stuff about the Patriots and the Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers made the news this week. LeBron James is coming back for another year.
We have to talk about the Yankees and Mets. We really have to talk about the Yankees and Mets.
Yeah, it's in our contract.
I mean,
even though we wrote the contract, so
we are. It is Yankees, Mets, Yankees, Giants, whatever. The whole thing. It's the.
I'll be really honest, Matty, man. Fucking New York baseball has not been this bad for both teams in a while, and
grain of salt, right? Like the Yankees would be in first place or second place in a lot of divisions.
Very true
right now. And I'm not saying they're good.
But I can also argue. Listen, I think the Yankees are obviously the better team right now. And if Judge isn't hurt, I think the Yankees, we're not really talking about the Yankees in the same kind of light as we are in a way the Mets, because Aaron Judge really does make a difference on the team.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll get into that and we'll get into a few other things. And then we'll close the show talking about, man, really just a rough school to be at right now. And that is Northwestern University. So we'll get into that to close the show, but we'll start with the Yankees. Oh,
Real
wait.
quick, though, I'm going to have to also, but I also have to ask, and I can't answer this question. I don't think you can answer this question because we're both not college sports people, really. But
I watch it but I could never tell you, I couldn't give you in-depth analysis.
No, but how does Tennessee get fined 8 or however many millions of dollars because of all these things they did wrong, but none of their like they have no other bans. There's no bowl bans. There's nothing like that. Can we stop fining people? Fines mean nothing to these schools. It literally means nothing to Tennessee to pay $8 million to get out of.
You mean Northwestern?
No, Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah, they were doing they weren't doing stuff like that. They were doing recruiting stuff, shit like that. So but stop fining people. Take wins away. Make it so they can't perform. But take things away from them. Don't take money away because it never works. Anyway, let's begin, shall we? With New York baseball.
So 1 and 2 are going to be about baseball in general. Yankees coming off a series loss right before the All-Star break. To the Cubs. They decided that the best course of action was to fire their hitting coach,
of course,
and replace him with Sean Casey, the former Tigers, Reds fielder. And here's the funny part about this. And Sean Casey's a very good hitter. I'm not taking it away. But the minute that hiring became official, Twitter was fucking flooded with videos of Sean Casey getting thrown out from left field at first base on a single because he thought that the guy. No, it was a case of I think he thought the guy had it or something like that. And he thought I think he thought the guy caught it, but it bounced. And the guy and it was immediate because of course people.
But if he was the base running coach, I'd be upset about that video. But he's not hitting coach, so he did what he was supposed to do.
So and the thing is, I remember Sean Casey, and Casey was a very good hitter with the Reds. He was a very good hitter with the Tigers. I assumed his relationship. I figured he knew Boone from somewhere. They played together. Yeah, I want to say the Reds, but I don't think it was the Tigers. So, and then after that, I'm not really sure where Casey, after the Tigers, where Casey, or if he just retired as a Detroit Tiger. Casey takes over as the hitting coach, and the first inning was great yesterday, right? Stanton hit a 2-run home run, and Casey was all fired up, and then the Rockies beat them 7-2. So it was a tough loss for the Yankees yesterday, but again, it's Colorado. So here's my question. So now sidetrack to the loss, because we don't really have to go and elaborate on one loss, on the show, but this kind of circulated everywhere yesterday. And that's a report. Buster Olney was really recently on ESPN, and he said that the Yankees are the team he feels could, quote, potentially be the most motivated to trade for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny part. So everybody fucking ran with this, right? Everybody ran with this. It was oh my God, Olney thinks the Yankee. And Buster Olney, you can't take anything that guy says with any type of seriousness. But I finally, somebody had wrote something on Facebook, because it was on on my Facebook timeline and everything, on my Facebook feed. And I wrote back, the key word here is potentially. Not, yep, they're the front runners to land Ohtani. No, not, they've been having conversations with the Angels about Ohtani. Potentially being motivated. So they're not motivated to get Ohtani yet.
No.
But they are apparently, in Olney's mind, Maddie, what's the word?
Potentially.
I potentially may go out and go get a sandwich later this afternoon. That's where we're kind of at with Shohei Ohtani. So, Maddie, I will leave it to you. The floor is yours.
Look, first of all, can you parse your words less? Shit, dude. It's how many words you need to put in front to make us say that this is nothing? Don't even write that report, Buster. Don't even write it. Who told you that? Is that made up? Did an executive from the Yankees call you and be like, we are very seriously thinking about maybe getting in on the Ohtani sweepstakes? Who fucking writes that report and goes, oh yeah, this is juice? You can tell it's the slowest sports week of the year because that report got done. Okay. Yeah. Here's the thing, folks. I'm telling you this right now. The Yankees are not trading for Shohei Ohtani. They're not trading for Shohei Ohtani. Why would you trade for Shohei Ohtani if you're the Yankees or the Mets right now? It literally makes no sense. You're gonna give away tons of assets. And there's no fucking guarantee he's signing with you at the end of the year. In fact, I would say he's probably not.
No.
Because the Dodgers are going to offer as much money. The Padres, all these teams can offer money.
Maybe even the Mariners. I mean, the Mariners could be a team out of nowhere. The West Coast team. Yeah, West Coast team. I mean,
look, here's the thing. Don't do it because you're going to give away a ton of prospects because they're going to want a ton. And again, it's a 2-month rental. Now, as the Yankees and Mets, you could say, well, we can offer them a ton. So can a lot of other teams, dude. So just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. He's not coming here. He's not. And also, why? The Mets are under 500 and the Yankees are in last place. So
like, I don't honestly at this point, I don't want the Mets to trade for Ohtani. The Mets are terrible. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And why am I going to hemorrhage all those prospects just to get Ohtani with, like you said, zero guarantee he is staying in New York?
And the thing is that especially, people say the Yankees farm system isn't great. The Mets isn't either. So like they'd be giving up their best prospects to get a guy for 2 months. And again, you can say all you want that, oh, Steve Cohen's my owner, so I can spend it. Of course, but that doesn't change. Shohei Ohtani has a lot of money already. And I understand his next contract is going to be huge, but you can't tell me that unless Steve Cohen offers him $1 billion over 10 years, he's going to the West Coast. And Senga, or whatever the fuck his name is, he can do whatever he wants. He can try whatever he wants. Guess what, dude? He's not coming here, and you shouldn't trade for him. It's dumb. It's dumb.
I really question how serious Senga was in like recruiting him to New York during like 3 days in the All-Star break. But I see your point.
Do that. I mean, it costs him nothing.
Yeah, it costs him nothing to do that. I completely see your point and everything. See, this is one of those players that the Angels, in my opinion, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because you have to make sure you maximize that return for a once in a generational player. You have to maximize that return. And that's tough to do, especially when that guy is in a contract year.
No, Craig, they fucked this up big time. They should have traded him last year. If they would have traded him last year, but they had the hubris to think that the Angels were going to be good.
But that's the point, right? But that's the point.
Because last year they would have gotten more.
They want to run it back with Ohtani again, with Trout. Now Trout's hurt. We don't know if he's going to be out for how long he's going to be out for with a broken. Yeah, it's like a broken wrist, I think. And the thing is that they will never be able to maximize this return by August 1st, because any team that inquires about Shohei Ohtani, the first thing they're going to tell the Angels is, well, look, we're not going to give you 6 prospects of our best prospects because we have to pay this guy. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to pay him anymore. We have to pay him.
There's also no guarantee that he will sign with you.
Yeah. Even if the Dodgers, now look, the Dodgers make the most sense because they're the Dodgers, they're on the West Coast, and they're always involved with the big ticket item. The fact was they weren't as active in free agency this past year as they were this year. So that could be a reason, although that's more of a theory in hindsight. The thing is right now with Ohtani is that, and again, I said this on this Facebook thing, and we have said this a couple of times on the show. If Ohtani wanted to be on the East Coast, he would be a Yankee. He would have been a Yankee when he first became a free agent. He would have never just canceled the meeting with the Yankees outright. And when he did that, he pretty much laid the groundwork of the fact that he does not want to be on the East Coast, and he doesn't want the pressure of winning in New York. No. He doesn't. He doesn't want anything to do with it. So it doesn't matter what the Mets offer him. It doesn't matter what the Yankees offer him. The fact is he will not give you a guarantee. And the minute you don't get that guarantee for Shohei Ohtani, you take yourself out of the bidding.
I would contend, Craig, and this is something I'm just saying off the top of my head, but I would contend that Ohtani winning the World Baseball Classic means more to him than any World Series that he could win.
It's possible. I mean, we thought that about.
Sure, but
I mean, Edwin Diaz won a game so great he tore his ACL celebrating for Puerto Rico. So yeah, I guess it means a lot to these guys.
It's tough when a dude pulls a Grammatica. It really is. It's difficult.
Funny.
Yes, hysterical, but still sad at the same time.
I said this last week when Alvarez hit the home run against Arizona to tie the game.
Right.
And he went around first base and he pulled a fucking Grammatica. He jumped in the air. And I was like, oh, great. This fucking guy's going to catch his ACL like on the way down or something. And I was like, stop jumping. I'm like, you're not Bill Grammatica. You're not Bill Grammatica. Just stop. Like, stop, please. But
yeah, he's not coming here. So stop with Shohei Ohtani. Stop. And here's the thing, Craig, and this is the same. It's true with the Knicks. It's true with every New York sports team. And I don't know how it is in hockey, but I know it's true for the other teams. you get a lot of people just throwing in the names of New York sports teams to up offers and to
Sure.
make contracts bigger when these teams have nothing. They're not going after him. I can't wait for when Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a free agent and they're like, well, the Yankees are thinking about signing him. And he's said millions of times he's not coming here. They're not thinking about signing him, but I can't wait for them to say that. I can't wait for his agent to say that, right? So they can bump up the price. Like,
but that's what it's become, though. That's
Yeah.
what it's become. It's become nothing but clicks. They just put bullshit out. We've said this 100 times. They don't believe their own bullshit anymore. Like when they post stuff on even WFAN the other day, this is where I mean about where we're at with sports radio, right? And Matt and I do our weekly thing where we kill WFAN because they fucking deserve it. Like, that's why. And the other day, Tiki Barber comes out and literally says, the Yankees are regretting the Judge contract.
Yep, of course.
See what I mean? It's like they don't believe their own bullshit anymore. And it's like, I get it. It's all about just getting people to call in and, with these ridiculous takes on things. But the fact of the matter is like, on what planet do you think that the Yankees really regret Aaron Judge not bringing back Aaron Judge?
Craig, here's what it comes down to. And I'll say this, and this is why Tiki is so bad at this. He's so bad at this. The only person worse than him is Tierney. And putting Tierney with the other screaming idiot, like, who the fuck is going to get the talk on that? It's just going to be idiots screaming in each other's faces. That aside, here's the thing about Tiki that's a moronic with this take. If Judge was playing and had played every game and was batting 198 with 3 home runs, yes, you can say that they'd regret doing that contract. But he is injured of no part of his own. The freaking stadium let him down when the wall broke that he ran into, and he hurt his foot on concrete, which shouldn't exist on the playing surface of a field. And since he's been out, the Yankees have sucked. So why would they regret a contract of a guy who helps them win games? Clearly, like, it's not that we think he helps them win games. When he's in the lineup, they're good. When he's not in the lineup, they suck. You don't regret signing a guy like that. It sucks that he got hurt, but he didn't pull a hammy. He didn't tear his ACL. It wasn't him being brittle. It was him kicking concrete full speed. Anybody gets hurt in that spot. Anybody.
But the takes are just getting worse and worse with him. And he's, the other day it was like, well, the Mets, he's like pounding his fist on the show, like, oh, the Mets have to trade for Shohei Ohtani now.
Yeah,
Why?
sure. Why?
The craziest fucking trade proposal I saw the other day on it was some bullshit site. It was the Mets sending literally like Brett Beatty was at the centerpiece of the deal. And like all the other guys were in like their top 5, like top 6, top 8 prospects. The thing is, like, a lot of the Mets prospects right now, they're really good ones, are not major league ready. They're still a few years away from being major league ready. Like Kevin Parada, the catcher, is still like at least a year or 2 away. The kid they drafted last year, Jet Williams, is like another 3 years away. Like they don't have any major league ready prospects, like except for Ronnie Mauricio and Vientos. Not even any of their pitchers are ready right now.
Do you think Jet, whatever his last name is, do you think his father or mother, they really like the movie The Sandlot? Or do you think they're Jet fans?
Well, Evan Roberts named his son Jet because he's a Jets fan.
I know, which is like the meanest thing. And that's not the name that's mean. It's the reason.
Just the reasoning behind it.
Here you go, my first son. I'm going to name you after this loser ass franchise that never wins anything. But,
well, the thing is,
if that kid is more of
no, because I think his first name has 2 T's in it. So they could have been a fan of Joan Jett.
Joan Jett. There you go. I love rock.
It's not a bad idea. I mean,
not idea. Are you kidding? I wore out Joan Jett's cassette when I was a kid.
Maybe his dad was one of the Heartbreakers. I don't know.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
All right, so let's jump now to the Mets. So Ohtani's not coming to the Yankees, and Ohtani's not coming to the Mets either. So we're just going to eliminate that altogether.
Yay!
The Mets opened the second half of their season getting 1 hit by the Dodgers yesterday. They'll get shut out 6-0. Verlander was struggled once again. Didn't make it into the 6th inning. Walked 6 guys, and here's the thing with me. Everybody is taking a shit on Epler, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to kill the guy 100% for all the problems with the team. My issue, the only reason why I killed Epler this year was because he should have done more for the bullpen, especially when Diaz got hurt. Now, when Diaz got hurt, the problem was any guy he would have traded for they would have cleaned his clock in a trade. Right. And he knew that.
Yeah.
So we caught a break there, though, because Robertson has been a very good reliever for the Mets this year in the closer role. My issue with the Mets is more about how they just look unmotivated, like disinterested. It's almost like the minute they fall behind, they just, I don't want to say give up because I feel like it's a little extreme, but I just see no fight in them. And how can I possibly be convinced that they are going to make a run to get into the wild card at this stage of the season? Now, look, it's one game against the Dodgers. They still play two more. They play one tonight, play one tomorrow. Very possible they could take the series, and they play the White Sox after that, and I think they go to Boston.
Right.
The thing is like, I just see no fight in this team whatsoever. Like, I don't see this team wanting to come out from a few days off. I know the 2 losses in San Diego. I know it sucked to end the first half of the season. But just coming out of the gate in the second half of the season, you're at home and you get one hit by the freaking Dodgers. And the Dodgers are a good team. I think the Dodgers are a little bit of an overrated team, but I think they're a good team. They're a good team and everything. But the Mets should be a good team too. They've had wars with the Dodgers. They've beaten the Dodgers plenty of times. That's what frustrates me. It's just that lack of just fight, that lack of intensity, that just like, all right, we want to go out there and just win this game today. Like, let's go out there and win this game. And I just don't see it. And it frustrates the shit out of me. And at this stage of the season, there is nothing right now that no one that can convince me that this team should be a buyer. This team needs to be a seller. However, the problem is that they don't have a lot to sell. Verlander makes $44 million this year. He's been very average. Scherzer in big spots has failed this team completely. And I date that back to last year in the Atlanta series where they had to just win 1 or 2 games to win the division. And that would have given them the division. So right now, your best bets for trade fodder are guys like Tommy Pham, who's having a good season, but what are you realistically going to get for Tommy Pham? What are you realistically going to get from Mark Canha?
Maybe a reliever. Maybe.
David Robertson is probably the one guy who can get you the most in a return because everybody needs a reliever, especially at playoff time. But it's just frustrating to death watching this team look completely deflated, especially having a few days off for the All-Star break where the guys can lick their wounds, get healthy, just rest, and then come out and be ready to play the second half of the year. And if that's how you're going to come out the second half of the season, there's no fucking point in even trying to get better because if you can't beat teams like the Dodgers, you're not going to win the World Series anyway. So it doesn't matter.
You're not. But here's the thing, and this is listen. When we came into the season with the Mets, right, it could have gone a couple different ways. And one of the worst ways was that the 2 old pitchers that you signed to huge contracts finally became old.
Yeah.
Right? And that's exactly what happened. Now, listen, Verlander, may find it at some point, but he got old over a season. Last year, he pitched he was the Cy Young Award winner last year. Was he like?
Yeah, he won Cy Young last year. He won in 22.
So he just got old, right? He's 39 years old. It was going to happen, right? You were just hoping that it wouldn't be falling off a cliff, right? Where he literally just went from great to mediocre in one start. And the same with Scherzer. And so here's the thing though. I think you can move those contracts because I think that you can pay a lot of the money on the contract. If you just want the guy off the team, the Mets can afford to cover that money over the next year and a half, whatever it is, if they really want to get rid of those guys. I probably wouldn't at this point because it doesn't make much sense. You're not going to get much back for them, even if you do pick up a lot of the contract. And who knows, you may find lightning in a bottle. And if they go on a 2-month run, you can get back into it very easy. If Scherzer and Verlander find it, you can get back into this very easily because I think part of it is the problem, Craig, is this. I think when you're a team like any team really, and you have really great starting pitching, right? And that starting pitching that you think that now listen, I know it hasn't been this way, but when you put Scherzer and Verlander on the bump, you think that you're probably going to win that game, right?
Absolutely.
That guy's not going to give up 6 runs. That guy's not going to give up 5 walks, whatever. And so when that guy starts to not be that guy anymore, it's got to be deflating to the offense because they think that that's a day where they don't have to take off that day. But if I go 0 for 4 today, it's probably okay because Verlander's on the hill, right? Or Scherzer. Whereas they don't have those guys right now where every day the offense has to be on point to win games with the way their pitching's going. So I think part of the thing that you're seeing there is partly that where it's just deflated, right? They just seem deflated by Their really great starting pitching not being great. And that was the worst case scenario for the Mets, is that their starting pitching would get old overnight. And that's what happened so far.
Now, I'm also one of those people, like, I will never sit here and say, I didn't want Justin Verlander. I didn't want Max Scherzer. I loved when they got him. Like, I loved when they got him. Yeah. Like, I loved every minute of them signing him.
170 ERA last year. Like, why the fuck wouldn't you want him?
But it was like, it just looks so deflating. And then you see guys like Alonso who can't hit. It's like he's becoming Serrano. It's like all he does is hit home runs. He's hitting 208 on the season.
Which is tough.
208. It's brutal, man.
He's a better hitter than that, too.
Exactly.
Like
McNeil is not hitting as good as he used to hit. Nimmo's been solid. I think Lindor's been good. He could be a little bit better average-wise, but he's on pace to match his numbers from last season.
So, my sister's a big Met fan. You know what she said to me, which it sounds crazy, but think about it for a second about Jeff McNeil. She said that a lack of a shift has hurt Jeff McNeil.
I've actually read that in a few spots.
Maybe the only person that's true for, but like, it's crazy to think that like he was just happy to just punch the ball over the shortstop's head or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and now that they're playing,
well, the problem is too, though, he has to adjust to that. Then he's got to figure out how to fix it. I mean, that's what hitters should do in that spot. But he's been madly inconsistent. No way am I going to kill Alvarez right now. He's probably our best hitter.
Yeah.
Beatty's been okay. I know he struggled a bit here and there, and then it's just like, I look at a guy like Buck and I just see no fire in him. He looks like he's like fucking sleepwalking now during games. Like and it sucks because last year they were a good team. They won 101 games with this basically same roster.
Mm-hmm. And added Verlander.
Yeah, they substituted DeGrom and Bassett. They brought in Verlander. They brought in Senga, and they brought in Quintana, who's going to be activated before the second half of the season.
Right.
So I just have no idea where this team it's literally the same roster. And granted, I know they're another year older, and I get that, but they shouldn't be this bad. Like, they should not be this bad.
No. And there's no real reason for it, but I'll say this, and I'll just go back to it. Like, I'm sort of happy the Mets haven't done the stupid thing the Yankees did, which is fire the hitting coach or the pitching coach or some bullshit like that, as if that person really like has that much effect on it, that like firing the hitting coach. Like, here's the problem. You can bring in Sean Casey, but the problem is Sean Casey hits a way that throughout the Yankees system, they're told not to hit. Sean Casey was an average hitter. Sean Casey was a guy who hit the ball into the gaps. He was an opposite field hitter. He was a lefty, but like he would hit the ball in the right center gap, left center gap. He was a doubles hitter. Like, he wasn't a home run guy. Like, are you changing your philosophy now? Is the uppercut swing not in style anymore? Like, what are you doing with that? I'm just glad the Mets haven't done the stupid thing yet of changed the little positions that really mean nothing. But here's what I'll say too. And blame Epler, but I blame him a little bit, and partially I blame him because as the GM of a team like that, one of your responsibilities, and this was something that Cashman sort of did okay at the end of George's life, is managing your crazy owner. Like, part of your thing that you have to do is manage your rich, crazy ass owner from making you go out and do things that you may not want to do. You have to be able to convince. Now, you're not going to win all those battles, right? Like, they're going to win some of them, but you have to be able to convince your owner that this isn't the right move at this time. This isn't the right move at this time. Because also, if
okay, go ahead.
Shohei Ohtani gets traded from the Mets, guess who's in that deal? That catcher that you love so much, that your best hitter. That guy's going.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit there with Epler, because one of the things I do think because if it was really that bad, like it was really that crazy of an owner, Correa would be a Met right now. Correa would be a Met if Billy Epler just said, okay, well, Steve, what do you want to do? And then it was just a lot of the medicals.
But he had medicals.
But he had medicals. But Cohen could have easily said, I don't give a shit, sign him. I want him, so sign him. He couldn't. He may not have given a rat's ass about the medicals, but when you finally get through to him and then you realize, now look, I'm not saying it's a total wash with Correa, because I think he struggled, but I don't think it's been as bad as everyone kind of made it out to be. But Epler has been in a position with the owner to basically turn around, say, okay, we didn't get DeGrom, so we're going to flip and we're going to sign the best pitcher available on the market in Verlander. He's always found a way to replace who he lost, and he's kind of avoided some bullets with other players. Like, for example, DeGrom contract. DeGrom is a great pitcher, and I'm not trying to really piss on the guy or anything like that. But the fact is that the arm troubles were always going to be an issue, and it almost seemed like he was determined. He was doomed to have Tommy John surgery at some point in his career again, because he just kept having these issues that were causing him to miss months. And they put it off and they put it off and they put it off for as long as they could until eventually they couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the first one. Then you look at a guy like Correa. They offered him a 12-year contract for $315 million. And then the Mets had the same issues that the Giants had. Although the weird part about that story is that the Mets used the same physician that the Giants used for Correa. So the guy basically had the same opinion for two teams.
Which is not right. Like they
should have used a different physician. I totally agree with that part. But then Correa got hurt and then he wound up missing time. And then everybody started to freaking panic because I think was it like a toe? It was his foot, if I remember. And that was really the issue. The issue was more of his ankle more than his foot.
Right.
All the guys that he's been in on and he wasn't able to sign, he's looked okay for right now. You could even throw Rodon in there, although it's early for Rodon. He missed time and then he got rocked yesterday, but he pitched well in his first game back. So that's time. You can't judge that deal yet because it's the first year of a new contract. So there's no way I'm judging that deal. And then again, the Diaz injury was just really, really unfortunate. There was nothing he could do about the Diaz injury except tell Edwin Diaz.
And I'm not saying he's even been bad at the other thing. What I'm saying is that it'll come to, if the Mets get Ohtani in a trade, it's because Cohen wanted him, right? That's the only thing, right?
I don't know, man. If they get Ohtani in a trade, I'm going to flip out, not in a good way. Because I just don't want to give up that youth. I don't want to. We've made a lot of ill-advised trades over the last few years. We went out and got Javi Baez, and we gave up one of our best prospects in Pete Crow Armstrong. And, these are guys that could help us now.
Yeah.
I can't really kill the Kelnick deal anymore because Diaz is one of the best closers in the league. And, Kelnick has been an average hitter. He hasn't been, everyone went apeshit when he went 330 to start the season. Now he's back to where he was at 245 and striking out 2 times a game.
Yeah,
so
no, that those are fine. It doesn't matter. Look, I'm just saying that Epler he's gonna have to learn. Now he dealt with it with Artie Moreno, but the thing is that he built a terrible team in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how good he is at doing it.
But one of the craziest trade offers I saw, going back to Ohtani really quickly, it was the Mets offering Beatty and 4 or 5 prospects. Kevin Parada was in the deal, a few others were in the deal. And the Mets would take back Ohtani and Anthony Rendon.
Nope.
Holy shit. On what planet would you think I'd want to take Anthony Rendon's contract back?
Here's the thing. I'll take Rendon's contract back and Ohtani, but you're getting 1 prospect.
Yeah, I'm not taking that shit back.
But if I got to pay the contract, I'll pay the contract. I don't care. But you're not getting anything for it. You're getting 1 prospect. For the Yankees, they're talking about Jason Dominguez. I'm not trading Jason Dominguez if I got to take fucking Rendon back. How much if not trading Jason Dominguez if I only got him for 2 months? So stop.
It's the same. And it's the same reasoning for everything. It's Cohen's the richest owner of baseball. Yeah, but he's not the one that signed Rendon to that horrible contract. And Rendon has just been awful since he got there.
He's missed more games for the Angels than he did his entire time in the Nationals.
Yeah, and it's going down in history as one of those contracts you're going to talk about with Chris Davis and all those other brutally fucking bad contracts over the years.
All right, let's move on.
All right, so next up, we're going to talk about the Jets. The Jets are officially the team that are going to be on Hard Knocks. Training camp starts next week. The Jets really, from a lot of the player perspective, didn't want anything to do with Hard Knocks. I think Robert Saleh had even said he didn't want to do it. However, with the list of teams that were part of the decision making, it was pretty obvious the Jets are the more, can you imagine it was training camp with the Commanders with Jacoby Brissett and Sam Howell fighting over a quarterback spot?
You traded for Aaron Rodgers. Of course you're going to be on Hard Knocks. Of course.
Now here's the thing. I love Hard Knocks. I'm okay. I don't give a shit. I'm perfectly fine with it. And the funny thing is the whole talk of it being a distraction for me seems a little overblown because last year when the Lions did it, they almost made the playoffs. The year the Jets made it, they went to the AFC Championship game.
It's
I
only a
mean,
distraction if you allow it to be a distraction, right? Like if you
but
allow it to get in your head, then it will be, but you shouldn't.
I think the only way it becomes a distraction is that maybe it throws off the scheduling a little bit because they have to film the one person interview type stuff. But I don't think it's anything so ridiculous that it's like you really think HBO is going to sit there and interfere with a practice like that's going on? They're just going to videotape. That's pretty much all they're there to do. And not for nothing, every team's social media now does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just HBO is a reputable network, whereas some
Well,
intern with a video camera.
I'm not sure about HBO being a reputable network anymore since it was bought by Discovery and those idiots. But yeah, well, I get what you're saying.
I was about to say,
Small
I was about to say, were you still salty about Game of Thrones? But
No, I
Oh.
didn't hate the ending of Game of Thrones. I'm one of
Okay.
the few who understand it. I get it. I'm not one of those people who gets emotionally attached to TV
But-
shows. And if it doesn't end the way I want it, I'm super sad. I don't care.
But the thing is, like, I don't have an issue with it. I know the players aren't going to be happy with it. But again, when you get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, when you make the moves you make, it's a make or break year for this team. They are the more exciting storyline. Nobody cares what's going on in Commanders camp. Nobody cares what's going on in New Orleans Saints camp right now. Okay. And I don't know. There was one other team that was rumored that was like supposed to do it, and I can't, or that could do it, and I can't remember who it was.
But it wasn't anybody big.
It was a shitty team. It was a team that hasn't made the playoffs in a while. I just
Right.
don't remember the team off the top of my head. So the Jets are doing it. I'm fine with it. It's actually funny because most of the former Jet players just saying, just embrace it. When they did it, we were there. It wasn't really that bad. Like, it really wasn't as bad as you guys are making it out to be.
If you're a player and you're looking to build your brand, this is exactly the place to do it. Because you're going to get people from every team watching you. This isn't like something that's just on Jet social media where like only Jet fans are going to watch it. So if you're a player who's looking to build their brand, who's looking to build their social media following, looking to do any of that stuff. The other thing too is if you're one of those guys who's on the cusp, if you're one of those guys who's on the brink of like getting cut and whatnot, everybody in the league is watching you every week play. So you have a chance to get a better chance probably to get signed or not signed, depending on how bad you are. So just embrace it and move on. But listen, I heard Aaron Rodgers be like, well, we were basically made to do it. Yeah, but that's on you, dude. You're the one who asked out of Green Bay and then wanted to go to the Jets. Anywhere you went this year was going to be hard knocks. Like, that's just the way it is, dude. Sorry, you're Aaron Rodgers. Get used to it.
I'm going to disagree with you on that part just a little bit because I think if the Jets had run it back with like, almost like a hypothetical, like Zach Wilson, I still think they would have been the Hard Knocks team because I don't think they would have asked any other team. None of the other teams want to do it. That's the problem.
The Jets wouldn't have wanted to do it either. They would have gone. See, I'm saying they would have gone to wherever.
But here's my then you know what? Here's my thing. If the Jets don't want to do it, if the Jets don't want to be a part of Hard Knocks, make the fucking playoffs, and then you won't have to do it because that's really one of the prerequisites. I think is like as long as you make the playoffs or like you make it in once or whatever in the last like 3 or 4 years, you're exempt from doing it. So make the goddamn playoffs. That being said, though, any Jet fan who complains about Hard Knocks will still be watching it on HBO when it debuts, whatever month it debuts in.
Never watched a single episode.
It's good. Like, it's kind of the same. Like, the thing is, it's kind of the same like drama. It's like every year, it's like they're the two guys, the two undrafted free agents they follow that are playing the same position and stuff like that. I mean, but it's cool, like some of the in-depth stuff. But nowadays, every team in the league has bulked up their social media and video departments where they basically do their own Hard Knocks episodes. The Jets do great ones with One Jets Drive. Those are pretty really, really good and well done. But the distraction to me is blown out of proportion just because teams do well. It's not like teams are completely a disaster when they do them. And if you look at a case, I think last year was the Detroit Lions. They came very close to making the playoffs. So I don't think it's as big of a distraction, and the players shouldn't treat it as much either.
Agreed.
All right, segue into the Giants. Really, the main news out of Giants camp is just the standoff between the organization and Saquon Barkley on a new contract. Saquon was franchised, where he'll make, I think, $10 million this year, if I'm not mistaken, like 10.5 on
like
the franchise tag. Reportedly, the Giants have offered him a deal that would pay Saquon $19.5 million guaranteed on a long-term contract. That deal would make him the 6th highest paid running back in the league. So we're not sure if Saquon really likes that idea or really wants to sign for that. And kind of in comparison, from what I read, Bijan Robinson, who was drafted, I think, 7th or 8th overall this year and hasn't taken a snap yet in the NFL, is the 4th highest paid running back in the league on guaranteed money, based off of guaranteed money. So that's why Barkley may want to hold out, and now he's considering holding out to start the season. But I think if he holds out to start the season, he can't play in the season, right? Isn't that?
He can play. He just he's going to lose game checks. But I'll just say this, Craig, like what you just said is fine, but like at the same time, like Saquon Barkley off his rookie contract made I think almost 40 million guaranteed, where he missed basically 2 years. So like I don't want to hear about Bijan Robinson. Like that guy was a first round pick. That's what happens when you're a first round pick and got on your second contract. If Saquon had lived up to his first contract, his second contract would not even be.
Well, remember, Bijan hasn't played yet. He's a rookie.
I understand, but Saquon hadn't played yet either when he was given a guaranteed contract, 5 years, 36 million, whatever the hell it was. So like it's just cyclical, right?
Well, I think it's more him. It's more of his thinking, not really just the general contracts and everything like that.
But here's the thing, Saquon. Like, you got to prove to us that you can play a whole year. Like, I'm sorry to be a dick, but like at the same time, last year you were really good for September. You sucked in October, November, and then you were really good in December again. The year before that, you were coming back from the knee injury because it's always the second year, right? The year before that, you had the knee injury. The year before that, you had the high ankle sprain. Like, it's always been something that where you've like not necessarily missed games where you weren't on the field, but there was like 5 or 6 games where he disappeared this year too. So to me, if I'm the Giants, what I would do is I would calculate what the franchise tag for the next 2 years would be, and then just give him that guaranteed money over the next 2 years. And if he's smart, he'll take it. Because if you go on the franchise tag for this year and you blow out your knee, well, then guess what? You're not getting that franchise tag next year.
It's going to be 1 year. It's going to be a 1 year prove it deal pretty much at that point. And even then it could become more 1 year prove it deals because Barkley's been hurt twice where he inadvertently blew out his knee.
The other thing too is I want to know like guarantees, like there's guarantees and then there's also like money to be made based on incentives and stuff like that. So like, I want to know what the total value of the contract is if he plays up to his abilities over 2 years. We'll see what that is going forward. I think it gets done. I don't think he's going to camp. And to be honest with you, Craig, I don't want him in camp. I don't want him risking getting hurt when they do tackling drills and all that crap. Saquon Barkley's been on this team long enough to where he doesn't have to be in camp to be effective. He just doesn't. He's a running back, right? It's not the same, right, as wide receivers and stuff like that because they need timing and all that stuff. And I understand running backs need timing too, but you understand what I'm saying. So for him to miss training,
with the team, he's been the team since day one, so it's not like he really needs like that much.
But you'll also give the kid you drafted in, I think it was the 4th or 5th round, a chance to get snaps with the first team and learn the offense. You'll have some battles there. I'm fine with Saquon sitting out, and if he sits out games, that's just on him for missing money. Like, I don't care. Like,
I think you're going to see it more and more where teams are just not going to risk their big time players getting hurt in training camp, which, it was kind of funny because when I'll pivot back to Rodgers for a minute, when Rodgers went to OTAs, it was like all the Packer fans were like, oh my God, he went to OTAs with the Jets, but he never fucking went to OTAs with Green Bay. But would you really want him when he was skipping Green Bay OTAs? Packer fans didn't give a shit as long as he just showed up week 1, ready to play and get the team to the playoffs.
He went to OTAs early in his career.
Yeah, when he first got drafted, of course. But like when he got into, especially after they won the Super Bowl, not as much, obviously, because you don't want to risk him getting hurt, right? Okay. And the thing was, even when he went with the Jets, it was light. It was nothing like out of the ordinary. It was nothing really crazy. But the thing is like, we take too much stock into OTAs when it's a player we hate, right? So if it's a player we don't like and that player decides not to go to OTAs, what's the first thing we say? We're like, oh, well, he should be at fucking OTAs. But then what happens is a said player, God forbid, hurts his knee doing a drill.
What are you doing practicing at OTAs?
See what I mean? Like, and you actually sound just like them, by the way. You sound just like all the fans who get bitchy and, moany when that happens. Yeah. It's like, it's so the thing is like right now with a guy like Saquon, he's a very valuable part of your offense. You're not going to expect him at OTAs. And even if you get him through mini camp or training camp, you're probably not going to run him into the ground in training camp because you want to make sure he's there week 1. He'll be healthy. He's always in great shape. So you don't have to really worry about that part. And he knows the offense. So there's no reason to really and you can hammer this out while this is going on. And I don't think for a minute Barkley's going to hold out where he's going to lose game checks. There's no way. I just rarely see that happening.
Labor Day, Memorial Day, whatever that day is in September.
It'll sign right before the opening night game for Kansas City. Like he'll sign with the Giants.
Real quick, I just want to say this because Tristan Wirfs came out and said that, people don't realize this, but adding one game is huge to an NFL player. Like that one game is a lot, right? It's a lot more work. It's a lot more effort. It's a lot more wear and tear in your body. And he came out and he said that there should be another bye week. Now, we've talked about this a lot, Craig, and you know how we feel about this is that there should be 2 bye weeks. There should be. One bye week should always be before a Thursday night game, so you never have a short week. And the other bye week, you get your full 2 weeks.
Yep.
If they did that, you would see less injuries. You'd see a better style of play, and those Thursday night games wouldn't suck because
the players will be happy too.
Exactly. The players would be happy. There'd be the less wear and tear on their bodies. There'd be enough time for them to go. And Craig, those Thursday night games, if you had both teams coming off, say 10 days off, those Thursday night games would be choice, man. They'd be really good.
But in the land of, and this is a good point, because in the land of CTE now, where pretty much that has become a thing where it wasn't in the past. Yeah. Taking away a preseason game to me is meaningless because a lot of the big stars don't play in preseason games.
All you did was hurt guys who were on the cusp.
Yeah. So yeah, well, and the thing is that doesn't, just like you said, it hurts the undrafted free agents. It hurts the bubble players that really need that last game to show what they can do. So taking away a preseason game, it's like a bit of a double-edged sword. It's like it's a meaningless game where the risk of injury is just as high. But at the same time, when the games are for real and we're at week 16 and your players are getting beaten up and everything, all it takes is one hit and they're done. And that could affect your playoff chances as well. So in a sense, yes, in the land of CTE and with everything going on with CTE and how much it's become such a huge thing where players are now retiring much earlier than expected, a second bye week would be a good idea for the league.
Just saying, and do it before the Thursday night game. You can figure it out. You can absolutely figure it out. And then you could do like Bills Chiefs on a Thursday night and have it not suck. You could put Giants, Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins, Eagles. You could do great rivalry games on Thursday nights because they'd have the 10 days to prepare instead of the 2 days, which is just bullshit. So anyway, on to the next one.
All right. So the next one really is the question that I have a feeling will start to permeate over the summer, especially as the teams get closer to training camp. And that is, will we see another Tom Brady comeback? So Bucs cornerback Antoine Winfield Jr. recently said on a podcast that he believes the Buccaneers, have already reached out to Tom Brady about a potential return to the Bucs. Okay. And partly that reason is because how bad the quarterbacks have looked in training camp. Now, right now, the Buccaneers are walking into the start of the season. Now, this is more of a transition year for the Buccaneers because Brady retired. They've lost few key players, but they still have some good players overall. So right now, there's I guess if you want to call it a competition, it's not much of one, where Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask are basically your 2 quarterbacks going into this year. Blaine Gabbert's no longer with the Buccaneers. But they've looked really bad. Like both quarterbacks have looked brutally bad in training camp.
You sure?
I'm
super shocked.
So when I see a comment like this from Antoine Winfield Jr., the first thing that comes to my mind is like this team, the players. I'm not even sure about the coaches. Okay. The players are scared shitless of what the Buccaneers are putting out at quarterback week 1. So deep down, while this might be a theory, like, he thinks it might be happening, I think Antoine Winfield Jr. is hoping that they speak to Tom Brady. But the bigger thing is Tom Brady working out over the summer? Is he doing anything over the summer at this point where he seems like, yeah, I'm keeping myself in shape just in case, if I get a call or whatever? I don't think that's really the case at this point. So I'm kind of like, I'm asking myself, yeah, the Buccaneers would be, I guess, a little bit better with Tom Brady. But if you saw last year, you just really saw how they just were like, he's old and you could just see it. And you could see where they stand right now. But it just looks like the players, when a comment like that comes out, to me, the players lack any confidence in the quarterbacks the Buccaneers are putting on the field.
Well, why would you have any confidence in Kyle Trask and stupid Baker Mayfield, right? Like, why would you have any confidence in that? You know what I'm saying? So, but here's the problem. Tom doubled down. You can't come back after you double down. If he was coming back, I think he would have hemmed and hawed at the double down, but he didn't. He doubled down. He said, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. I already made the decision. I'm not coming back. He said it. So he can't. And also, why would you? Like, Tom Brady's not stupid, right? Like, you may hate Tom Brady, but he's not dumb, right? So, like, why would he risk his legacy, whatever you want to call it, to come back and be on a shit team?
Mhm.
If he comes back,
Especially with Todd Bowles as the head coach.
right.
Wow.
If he comes back, he's gonna ask to get moved to the Dolphins, to the 49ers, to something like that, where like he can not guaranteed, but as close to a guarantee in football of getting into the playoffs and maybe making a run. So
Yeah.
he's not going back to Tampa. If he does come back, it's gonna be to a team like the Niners or like the Dolphins or something like that. And that's only if Tua gets hurt and if the Niners can't just slide in another quarterback to be good.
It's just pretty impressive how like this is going to become a thing now, where it's going to, you'll probably see it. Maybe not right away, but you'll see in a few weeks when the Buccaneers come to training camp and
At a certain point,
Mayfield's off to, let's say Baker Mayfield gets off to a brutal start at training camp, which, I mean, again, when you saw the mini camps, and again, mini camps, it's tough to really digest. But for a veteran like Baker Mayfield, if he's having a tough time connecting with receivers at mini camp, it's not a good look. For a guy like Kyle Trask, who's a second or third year quarterback who's barely played, it might be a little different.
No,
but for a guy like Baker Mayfield, who has started in the NFL, who is a veteran, when you're missing receivers the way you're missing receivers, it's just a bad look either way you look at it.
Let's be fair, Craig. If you're playing in the NFL and you're missing consistently receivers that aren't covered by anybody and there's no tackling and there's nobody in your way and there's nobody rushing you, you're probably not very great at your job.
Exactly.
You're still not good at it, still not great at your job, right? Because like I think like we could even hit some of those passes. I'm not saying very well, but we could as well. But Tom Brady's not coming back because why would he? Especially not to that team, because that would just be a bad decision. Bad.
And especially after the fact that it's rumored he's hanging out with Kim Kardashian. All right. Friends of Bill Belichick believe the head coach is on the hot seat if there is another subpar season in New England. An article in the Boston Globe cites quarterback Mac Jones' strong relationship with owner Robert Kraft and plenty of questionable decisions Belichick has made since Tom Brady left, including having Matt Patricia and Joe Judge be co-offensive coordinators last season to pretty terrible results.
Didn't they almost make the playoffs?
Barely, yeah, but they
no.
They almost, but I think I don't know. Did it come down to the last week of the season?
In the division that had the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets, but that's okay.
Yeah, but I think it came down to they needed like help and they ultimately got eliminated. Look, I don't believe for a minute Bill Belichick is ever on the hot seat. I think it's a simple case of they're going to let him dictate his terms. If he wants to retire, he'll retire. Unless things got so brutally bad in New England where he went like 2-16, then maybe I could see Robert Kraft making a change and firing the guy. But something tells me he just would never fire Bill Belichick.
They're also never 2-16. Like he's just
he's now listen, Belichick's decision making has been very questionable over the last few years, especially after Brady left. The Mac Jones decision, I'm not going to really crush him on the Mac Jones decision. Mac Jones has been okay. I don't think he's been bad, but he really hasn't been a first round quarterback or like a really good first round quarterback also. But the decision to have Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, who never coached offense in his life, being co-offensive coordinators was a problem. Some of the decision-making in free agency was a problem. Some of the draft picks, a lot of the draft picks have been cut because they just haven't made it under Belichick. So I can understand those being grounds for like a decision like that. But I think the fact that Belichick has basically, with all the Super Bowl victories, whether it was Tom Brady delivered or not, the fact is he's earned his right to stamp his ticket and go out on his own terms. And I think Robert Kraft knows that. And it's not like Robert Kraft. Do you really think Robert Kraft is going to take Mac Jones's opinion into consideration over Bill Belichick? So in my opinion, it's just like
if he didn't take Tom Brady's side over Belichick, he's not taking fucking Mac Jones.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what Mac Jones's relationship with Robert Kraft is. I'm sure Robert Kraft gets along with all the players. So unless all the players decided to just have a mutiny and just say, we don't want to fucking play for this guy anymore, then fine. But even then, I don't know if he would take their side over Belichick.
I don't either. And listen, having Patricia and Judge be co-offensive coordinators was a terrible decision. But here's the thing. I think it was brought out of him being kind of nice, if that makes sense, because both those guys probably want to try and be head coaches again. And the problem with both of those guys is their offenses were trash when they were head coaches. Right. And so what better way to learn about offenses to be the offensive coordinator. Now, I'm not saying it was a good idea. I'm saying as a coach to his assistants, he was like helping them sort of develop as coaches. The problem is it's probably not the best place to do that in the NFL level. You know what I mean? Maybe go be an offensive coordinator at like a college somewhere, you know, or like the XFL or some shit like that. But still, Belichick can afford to make moves like that and do shit like that. He's earned that whole thing. If he gets fired, then like
I can't picture him joining another team. I just don't see it.
I can't picture Kraft firing him unless, as you said, it's such a goddamn debacle that like he has no choice. I will say this though, and we talked about this many, many times, and I have fights about this with idiots on Twitter and all these places all the time. Tom Brady, go look at the stats and the numbers. Up until say 2009 or 2008, like the defense in Belichick carried Tom Brady. Now, I'm not saying Tom Brady was bad in those games. It's not what I'm saying. But like he was only asked to score 17, 20 points in order to win games. If you go look, Peyton Manning was a superior regular season quarterback to Tom Brady during those years. He just was. So like it can be both, right? Like Bill carried the first half and Tom carried the second. Like it can be that, which is what I think it was. But Bill's not getting fired. He's not, unless it's, of course, it's a huge debacle, in which case he probably
yeah. But even then, I just don't see it. Like I just don't see Kraft just firing him. No, if anything happened, like it would just be weird. It would be weird in general. It would.
Who are you getting to replace him?
Yeah, especially on that pedigree.
Yeah, who are you getting? So stop it. Give it up.
All right, rumors are circulating that the Brooklyn Nets could be the third team included in a potential deal for Damian Lillard. In the proposed deal, Lillard would go to the Heat. The Nets would get Tyler Hero. The Blazers would get some draft picks and players, and a couple of players, including some floated names, Spencer Dinwiddie and Duncan Robinson. The Blazers are willing to drag this out with the Heat for as long as it takes, because right now the Heat just don't have enough to make a deal for Damian Lillard. They don't have the draft picks and they don't have the players, especially after they lost Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, and they don't want to include Caleb Martin in any deal for Lillard. So that's where we stand with that. Look, I like Tyler Hero. I know he gets hurt and everything, but I do like Tyler Hero.
You have Tyler Hero like 3 times on your team.
But my thing is, I don't want to give up like 3 or 4 first-round picks, and I'm hoping that's not what it is. I don't think for the Nets perspective it is. I think it's more on the Heat perspective they would give up those picks. But for the Nets, I think they would give up the one they have in, I think, next year, because that's the one that the Heat don't have.
Right. But here's the problem. Here's the problem from everybody's perspective from the Blazers. Why would the Blazers take Duncan Robinson and other scraps plus some first-round draft picks that admittedly probably won't be great, and they won't be for a couple years either? Like, they need a team that those draft picks are going to actually come to fruition over the next couple years. The draft picks I was looking at, the Heat giving them are like 28, 29, 27.
Because that'll put them right in the championship. It'll be in the playoff window, so it's going to be a bottom 20 pick.
Right. It's crazy. Why would the Blazers do that? And here's the other thing, folks. The Blazers have time. He's under contract for 4 years.
See, I like
4 years. So they can wait the trade deadline to do it if they want.
Matty, I'll be really honest, man. I like the Blazers' stand on this one. I don't have a problem with the way the Blazers are handling this at all. It's like,
only Heat fans have a problem with the way the Blazers are handling it.
I mean, the thing is, like, you already know that I don't want Lillard on the Nets because he's 33 years old. The Nets are not in that window anyway. And in the next 2 years, he's going to want out of Brooklyn and go to another team. And I just don't want to deal with that shit anymore. I don't want to be able to give up 4 first-round picks, or we just got picks back thanks to the Durant and Irving trades. And we just got those picks back. And I don't want to have to give them to Portland now for 2 years of Damian Lillard, where we'll be a playoff team. But I mean, I just don't have deep prospects for them as a playoff team with Damian Lillard. So I'm okay with them not getting Lillard. But I have no problem with the way the Blazers are handling this, because they're like, look, you dumped it on us for a trade. You only want to go to Miami. You're not interested in going to any other team. Then we're going to wait this out for as long as it takes. And I've got no problem with that, because it's, look, you're either going to play with us this year or you're going to play somewhere else, but we're going to get what we want in return. Mm-hmm. You know, in some ways, the thing that bothered me about Bradley Beal, the Bradley Beal trade on Beal's standpoint, is the Wizards paid him a crazy amount of money. They dealt with all of his injury shit, where he didn't play more than like 35 games at a time, or 50 games last year or something like that. They give him a $252 million contract. And then as soon as the season ends, the first thing he turns around and says is, well, I want to be traded and I only want to go to Phoenix.
Right.
I refuse to go to any other team where the Wizards could have gotten maybe a better haul in return for Bradley Beal. So the Wizards had no choice. The crazy thing is, I actually think it's not a terrible deal for the Wizards.
No, they did good.
They just got out from under that contract altogether. Now it's Phoenix's problem. Everyone's acting like Phoenix is going to be the champion this year. Beal gets hurt all the time. Durant gets hurt all the time. But it's like the Blazers are just doing the right thing. The Blazers are basically just sitting there going, look, we have what you want. You got to find a way to get us what we want. And we have no problem dragging this out for as long as it takes.
That's what I do. Wait till the trade deadline. What the hell does it matter to you? Nothing. You can't use those draft picks till next year anyway.
I mean, I doubt Lillard's going to sit out the season, right? I mean, I can't see him sitting out the season until he gets what he wants. That'd be pretty fucked up on Lillard's part for all the times he talked about Portland as lovely being there. It makes him look very hypocritical because now he's not getting what he wants.
But he doesn't get paid if he sits out. So,
yeah.
So there you go.
As for the Knicks, we kind of have this thing now, this rolling thing where every week it's a new player rumored to be on the Knicks radar, a new star player being rumored on the Knicks radar. Last week it was Mikal Bridges after the Josh Hart tweet asking Bridges to call him and all that stuff. And this week it's become Raptors.
LeBron, AD.
No, those are all in the past. It's like, remember we were talking about like how
it's got to be Luka, right? Luka?
Yeah. Or Zion.
Yeah.
But basically it's become a thing where it's like, if you've ever watched Survivor and at the very end on the last day, and they have all the tiki torches of all the people who've been eliminated, and the players just walk, the contestants run through and they go, oh yeah, wow, he was so great and everything. And you just see like a picture of Giannis, and you see a picture of Luka, and you see a picture of Zion. And Leon Rose is probably sitting there going, yeah, we almost had Giannis. We really almost did, especially after they got eliminated and everybody thought he was unhappy. So now the latest guy is OJ Anunoby. And the reason why this has become a thing is because it looks like the Raptors are kind of going to do a rebuild, yet I'm not sure why. I don't know if that's partially true because they just brought back Jakob Poeltl for this year from the Spurs when they got last year. So that didn't, to me, if they're really in a rebuild, they probably wouldn't have brought him back. But after they let Fred VanVleet go to the Rockets, there's a rumored deal with the Pacers for Pascal Siakam. Okay. So basically the Raptors are going to be a very young team going into this year. So that's where Anunoby becomes more expendable. The Knicks are apparently trying to coordinate a 3-team trade, not necessarily for the Raptors, but just with teams in general, because they really want someone to take Evan Fournier's expiring contract.
Okay.
But there's no takers for it as of right now.
I can't believe that to be true. I mean, it's just maybe the Knicks are asking for too much back, but like all teams want expiring contracts, especially bad teams. Like they want that money. You're going to take a shitty contract in return. And
if I was Fournier, I'd be pushing for a trade to another team because I'm not getting minutes with the Knicks. So why am I going to? I mean, not that I don't think I think Fournier will go play wherever he gets traded. He's not going to be picky about it. Obviously,
listen, the Knicks have a ton of draft picks coming up, and that's fine. They can trade some of those. But like, what are you going to do with Anunoby? Like, my problem here is the way the roster is constructed. I feel like Tibbs doesn't know what he wants to do from year to year because they basically traded Obi Toppin for Dante DiVincenzo, which are two totally different players.
And 2 second-round picks.
Right.
In 2029 and 2037.
It's like I'm in idiot hell like all of my life with this.
You know what's going to be funny though? Like we laugh about the years that those picks get dealt, right? It's like 2029 and 2030. And we all forget what happens 8 years from now, right? Or 7 years from now. And we'll be watching the NBA draft and the Knicks will be like, and then you'll hear the guy, whoever is taking over on whoever's doing the draft telecast going, if you guys don't remember, this is the deal from 8 years ago where the Knicks traded Obi Toppin, and this is one of the second-round picks they got. And then it winds up being some guy they stash in like Bolivia or something.
But the thing is, Craig, that pick will go from, it'll be the Knicks pick from the Pacers will have the Knicks pick, or the Knicks will have the Pacers pick, but they will have traded that pick to the Thunder, who also traded it to the Wizards, who also traded it to it'll be all nonsense. Anyway, here's the thing. The Knicks are not going to be good this year. They'll make the playoffs because I think they're good enough to make the playoffs in the East, but they won't get anywhere. They'll lose in the first or second round because they've decided that Julius Randle is the man, and he's not. And you can't win with Julius Randle being your one. You just can't. I'm sorry, you can't. I can't. Sorry. All right, next one.
I'll take orders from you, man.
Yeah,
The next one, get the fuck out of here.
next one.
You're in your dark screen in the background.
That's right. Floating head doctor.
All right. LeBron James confirmed he will not retire this summer. He's going to return to the Lakers for his 21st season. Lakers actually kind of had a pretty decent offseason, bringing back Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, and Rui Hachimura, and they brought in Gabe Vincent from the Heat. James is also hoping to play alongside his son, Bronny James, who is draft eligible next season. So, Maddie, the question on the floor is, if Bronny James is as good and he's expected to be, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know the scouting report, so I couldn't really figure out if he's like going to be a number 1 draft pick next year or not.
No.
So the question ultimately becomes, would LeBron James really play for a crappy team for one season just to play alongside his son?
I think maybe. I think he's kind of earned that, right? Like, I don't have a problem if he decides to go to like the Thunder or some crap like that, or you know what I mean? Like, if he decides to do that to play with his son for a year, I don't begrudge him that. I will say that like it's classic LeBron James to announce that you're not retiring at the ESPYs like a douche.
Like the decision,
like the decision part 2, you know.
Yeah, great.
Look at me.
The funniest part about that decision thing was like, it was in the Boys and Girls Club where like you're supposed to be sending positive message to these kids to like not to be douches.
Yeah.
And you just pulled the ultimate douche move on live television at the Boys and Girls Club. So go ahead.
So I don't begrudge him that if he wants to do that. I just don't think Bronny's good enough to where he might just fall to the Lakers wherever they draft, and they could just draft him. To be honest,
yeah, it could be. See, but something tells me the Lakers will probably peddle off draft picks to if they're in the hunt to win again. Like if they're in the top, like 3 or 4 in the West.
I'm not even sure he's a first round pick. He's like a top 75 prospect. I don't think he's in like the top 30 of prospects. So I don't know, but who knows what he does in a year, right? Like maybe he blows it up in college and he becomes one of the top prospects. But right now he doesn't fit that. He doesn't fit that bill. Also, also the name Bronny makes me want to beat people up. Like,
but think about it like this though. Like he might have inadvertently given up Bronny James's plans after the year at USC, because that's where he's going to play ball. So he basically just said in not too many words, yeah, well, I'm going to be a free agent after this year, and my kid's going to probably be in the draft. So a team
did you really think Bronny was going to go to college for 4 years? He doesn't need to go to college for 4 years. Get out of here.
But a team could inadvertently sit there and say, man, we can draft Bronny. Like, who do you think right now on paper could be the shittiest team in the NBA?
The Rockets?
Maybe the Rockets, Detroit, right? Detroit's probably not going to be that good again this year.
Yeah, probably.
I'm trying to think who else is like really, really bad.
The Magic?
Oh, no, the Wizards. Oh, my God, the Wizards.
Oh, yeah, the Wizards are going to be brutal.
Yeah, the Wizards are going to be brutally bad. So,
where Jordan ended, it'll be perfect.
But I'm saying like a team like the Wizards could get deluded in their head and say, well, if we draft Bronny James, we have a really good chance of getting LeBron for 1 year in Washington. And won't LeBron be 40 by then? Isn't he like 38, 39 years old?
I could also see Bronny pulling a Kobe and being like, I'm not going to the Wizards. Trade me to the Lakers.
Trade me to the Lakers.
75 first-round draft picks.
Yeah. It's so true. I could totally, yeah, especially if he knows his dad is on the Lakers. Yeah, yes, I could totally see that being the case. But
it's got to be tough, man. I'm sorry. Like, I feel bad for that kid. I know it, and like I give him credit for trying to play basketball, but it's got to be tough when your dad is like that good. It's got to be hard because you're never going to be as good. Like, it's impossible. Like it was with Jordan's kid. Remember, like he's just never going to be that good. She's never going to be that good. It's just tough. It's got to be really tough. But do you
get a sense right now that like they might overhype him this year, like at USC, even though they don't, he's not. We don't really know how good he is as a player, but it's like, well, he's LeBron James's son, and it's going to be pretty much like every night it's going to be okay. USC is going to be on national television because LeBron James's kid is on the team.
I mean, I think they could do that, but I think ultimately the numbers and statistics will bear that out, right? Whether he's actually good or not, right? Like ESPN's, of course, going to put all those games on TV because that's ESPN being fucking lazy, right? Like that's what they're going to do. But that doesn't mean he will reap the benefit of that. It could actually end up hurting him because if people get to watch him every day, they could see holes in his game. They could see all that crap. So it may behoove him to sort of lay in the shadows and just get covered every once in a while. But we know that won't happen because ESPN's lazy as hell.
All right, and our final topic for this week, it's about Northwestern University. Rarely do Matt and I cover college football because we just don't have in-depth analysis on college football.
Oh, wait, Craig,
No?
before we get to this, real quick, we
Go.
forgot to talk about this last week, but I'll just take a second to just enjoy for just a second the fact that Larry Nasser got stabbed a bunch of times.
Well, actually, we couldn't talk about it last week because it didn't happen last week. It happened.
Oh,
this
whatever.
week.
All right, it happened this week. Okay. But can we just enjoy for just a second? Like, we don't need to talk about it. Just let's take a second to just enjoy.
I should have had. You know what I should have had?
Stabbed.
You know what I should have had you do? I should have had you pull a video clip of the movie American Me when Edward James almost gets stabbed at the end and thrown off like the side, or just to like, oh yeah, we have video footage of the actual stabbing, and it's just like them just unloading on some guy.
So let's just take a moment.
Good, you fucking deserved it.
And like the thing I love about prisoners too is they apparently stabbed him a bunch of times, but never they knew where to stab him to where they wouldn't kill him. So
Well, when you're doing 25 to life, you have time to research that. So
I understand that, but like what I love the fact is that they basically stabbed him a bunch, so he'd be in the hospital. He'll get better. He'll come back out, and they'll just stab him again, and like he'll go back in the hospital. Dig, you know, it's glorious.
They purposely missed every vital organ for the sole purpose of doing it again and again and
These
again.
motherfuckers could all be surgeons.
And how is he in? Is he in there
with such precision? All right, let's go on.
How long is he in jail? He's in jail for life, basically, right? Or is it like? Or,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. Like,
he won't. I mean, he won't make it out just
No,
due to his age.
In a body bag, yes, but not walk out. No.
Well, if you have those cartons of cigarettes, now's the time to start making some trades because you're going to need it because they're
Not
waiting.
gonna matter, dude. You could be the greatest prisoner in the world, but if you touch young kids, you are getting destroyed in a prison. You could have killed 60 people and they don't care as much as you touching young kids. And that's great. I love that there's prison justice like that. I really do.
Unless you have a little Andy Dufresne magic in you. That's
Right.
probably the only way you're going to survive, but they'll be waiting for you again and they'll purposely miss every organ again.
So great. Buddy.
So Northwestern. All right. So it was a pretty rough week for Northwestern athletics. First, they fired their head football coach, Pat Fitzgerald. I think it was bad enough they were bad last year. But apparently the school learned of 11 alleged incidents of hazing by current and former players of the football team. And the allegations included forced participation, nudity, and sexualized acts of a degrading nature. Not to be outdone, Northwestern fired their baseball coach, Jim Foster, for creating a toxic environment where he bullied and verbally abused players. Since then, multiple coaches have left the program and 15 players have already entered the transfer portal, even though they already replaced the coach. He's actually a guy who used to play for the White Sox, I think. So now here's the funniest part. As if the hazing was bad enough, but this guy was only a coach for a year, and Northwestern's record with him as a head coach, 10-40. So the question becomes, knowing about what happened with the football team, knowing what happened with the baseball team, how far back has Northwestern athletics been set with regards to recruiting after all these allegations of abuse?
I mean, you can't be set far back when you weren't great at recruiting to begin with. So like maybe bringing in a new coach will change that. I want to get it. Did you read some of the stuff that they were doing? Like as hazing?
Didn't go into a lot of detail, but you can only imagine.
Like apparently they were like having guys go under center while the center was naked, and like what the fuck is going on? Like listen, man. Look. Here's the thing, Craig. You know me. I don't care what consenting adults do behind closed doors. I don't care if you get off standing behind a big sweaty fat dude and put your hand in his junk. I don't honestly care. I really don't. Like, I really don't. But here's the thing. When you're made to do it, that's where I draw the line, right? Like, it's crazy to me. Like, and like, that's not hazing. Like, hazing to me is like, you make the rookies buy donuts, right? Like shit like that, right? Like you make them carry the bags to the plane, or they have to carry the jock straps down to the wash, or you know what I mean? It's stuff like that where like, you're not like making them undress in front of the team and like dance a jig. Like what the fuck is going on, man?
Do you want to know what makes me laugh about this story? And listen, you don't try to find the humor, and it just kind of naturally, you pick up on a few things where you're just like, okay, this is ridiculous. Here is a sport, okay? And we're talking all sports in general, all athletics, hockey, basketball, baseball, football, okay? These are guys, especially football, where they play a sport where the quarterback is right behind the center to snap the ball.
Right.
It's like in a way you're defending your sexuality. Okay.
Mhm.
Most football players, I'm not. It's like, oh yeah, you get in the dirt with the guys and everything, and they're probably, there's probably a lot of homophobic slurs going back and forth among football players. But here are players who are trying to defend their sexuality on a daily basis. Okay, and they do shit like this.
Makes no
Which
sense.
is just unbelievable. It makes no freaking sense. Like, with all kidding aside, I don't think I'd want to be on a team where I was being forced, like you said, to crawl under the center and have his balls like tickle my forehead. It's disgusting. Like,
the whole thing is crazy. And like
the coach is okay with this. Like, what the fuck?
But I love when people are like, the Pat Fitzgerald didn't know about, like, if he didn't know about this shit, like, stop. Can we stop? Like,
I'm tired of hearing about how coaches never know these things and coaches never know what the fuck is going on.
It happened in the locker room, dude. It didn't. This wasn't like they were doing it in the dorm rooms in private. They were doing it in the locker room. And as for the baseball coach, like, I'm sorry, dude. Your team is 10-40. You don't get to berate anybody. Nobody, you useless clown. How about berate yourself? You're terrible at your job. Terrible. At 10-40. Like, even shitty teams find a way to win more than 10 games in baseball, right? Like, even in baseball, like, it's so random that you find a way to win more than 10 games. So, like, the whole system is screwed up. But I'll tell you this, Pat Fitzgerald will get another job. He will. But he's going to have to go to, like, the Nick Saban coaching reclamation project academy down there in Alabama for a year or two, be an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and then he'll get another job. He's good enough where that's going to happen, but I'm not sure it should. I really don't think it should.
I'm just blown away about the fact, like, these are athletes who are like constantly playing, you play a sport and you're defending your sexuality on like a regular basis, and they do shit. I just can't get over it. Like, why? Like I can understand if you wanted to make them run laps until they puked. Right. I can make you, remember like during like the football, like during rookie mini camps and stuff like that, when they used to tie the guys to the goalpost with the tape, like,
I'm not a big fan of that. Like,
but
anything
again,
that could be considered assault, I'm not really a fan of. Like, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But it's like,
keep your clothes on.
It's borderline harmless. Like, it's borderline harmless with the way it's done there. And a lot of times you'll see the rookies carrying the pads of the veterans out down to the field.
No problem.
Exactly. But like who creates this stuff where they're like, oh, here's a great idea. We're going to have our center naked. Okay. And he just hasn't taken a shower and he just practiced all day. And we're going to have these kids run through a gauntlet. Oh. Like, can you imagine? Like what? I would have probably walked out. I don't want to. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh my God. Like,
again, I don't care what you do in the privacy of the room. Don't involve me in it. That's all.
And then it's not a big deal to these guys. No. It's not a big deal to the players. It's not a big deal to, like,
But in locker rooms,
I can't speak for the coaches, but
in locker rooms, right? Like, you're in your locker room so much, and guys are probably just walking around in flagrante delicto so much that it just becomes like sort of second nature. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, like, it's crazy to me. It really is. And like, I would have just probably walked out. I mean, I don't know if I was really good at football. I don't know what I would have done, to be honest.
It's like, you've seen the first Scary Movie, right?
Oh,
with when Shawn Wayans is like, he's the guy who's like the football player who like can't, no one can tell if he's gay or straight kind of thing. And like, he's in the locker room, and what does he do? He's rat tailing all the football players into the shower. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I mean, that alone, like, those types of things are just I'm surprised it doesn't make any player uncomfortable, even if you're a veteran player of the team. Like, why would you want to be taking part in that? Like, I mean,
the other thing too, but here's my bigger problem.
Contrary to popular belief, it doesn't make a freshman player stronger. Like, it just doesn't. It knocks them down a peg, quite honestly.
The other thing too, Craig, is this: if Pat Fitzgerald was like a 70-year-old guy, I would probably understand it a little bit more, if that makes sense, because that's the way things were done back in the 70s and 80s, right? And maybe even the early 90s. But Pat Fitzgerald's a young guy. Like, he played in the last bunch of, like, he's a younger guy. Like, he grew up in a different time. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because here's the thing. Pat Fitzgerald was as unfireable a guy as there probably was in college football, because he went to the school, they loved him there, and it didn't matter that he didn't always win, because every other year he would be really good and then he'd be bad and they'd be good and they'd be bad and be good. Like, when you think about what you have to do to get fired from a job like that, like, it's bad. And Pat, like, you deserve everything you get at this point, because it's just, your decision making and your everything is just so bad. Just, oh God, it's so bad. You got fired from a job you would never have gotten fired from for wins and losses ever. It's crazy to me. It's crazy.
It's like, I was watching Family Guy the other day. And it was like one of the later seasons aren't nearly as funny as the first like few seasons. And like Peter does a cutaway of like they're hazing a new Supreme Court justice.
Right.
Right. And it's like, you see Sandra Day O'Connor is like, okay, what you have to do is you got to pick up this cherry with your butt cheeks and like go running around and dropping it into like a mug of beer, and you're in. And like you see the guy doing, they're like, oh, this guy's totally in, like, this guy's totally legit. Right.
That's like, what it's like.
But it's just like, we laugh about it on TV, but then when we actually see the stories, it's depressing. It's sad.
Yeah.
And the thing is, these kids are like scarred for life now because they don't want to play football. I mean, these are kind of borderline traumatizing events.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it could affect their play. It could affect their education. I mean, we focus more a lot these days on like the mental state of a person. These are the types of shit that can really mess with a person's mental state. Mm-hmm. You never know, like, God forbid, you pray it doesn't happen and you hope the kids are getting counseling for all the allegations and all the stuff that they went through. It's scary to see that this type of stuff is not only going on, but it's justified among a group of football players who think this is a good idea.
This is how we build football players.
And Northwestern still sucked. So it was like, didn't matter. It did nothing for you.
Made it much more delicious in hindsight.
Yeah, it made it from a physical and a mental standpoint. It did nothing for Northwestern except get your coach fired.
Delicious.
So, all right, Maddie, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think we covered it. Women's World Cup starts up this week. If anybody cares, Women's World Cup should be good. The United States women are actually good as opposed to the men. So I would definitely recommend watching it because, the women are good. That's all.
Thank you for dropping in the Larry Nassar thing, because I totally forgot about it.
So I giggled to myself so much. It was great.
And on that note, this episode of the Polar Opposites is over, and we'd like to thank everybody for checking us out. You can follow the show courtesy of Apple Podcasts. You can follow the show on Instagram at PolarOppoPod. You can follow us on Twitter at PolarOppo. You can follow our show, subscribe to our show courtesy of Spotify, courtesy of Apple Podcasts. You can also subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Like and comment, leave us a 5-star review. Makes us feel oh so special at the end of the day. Hopefully show next week. We will let you know. But until then, on behalf of Matt, this is Craig. This has been the Polar Opposites. Enjoy your week. Maddie, take us out.
Bye.